Hey everyone, welcome back to the new video, and in this video we'll be talking about AWS misconfigurations and how you can look for those misconfigurations while doing bug hunting. So we're going to look at everything that happens when you're pen testing for AWS S3 buckets and stuff, how you can use those misconfiguration to read and write files and stuff like that. So what are S3 buckets? Amazon Web Services provide these buckets that let you store any amount of data like images or files and stuff like that. So each bucket acts like a container, and that container contains a lot of objects. So you must have seen images hosted on S3 URLs like Amazon AWS.S3 and something like that. You must have noticed while exploring different kind of applications. So basically a storage service where you can store an amount of data. But these storage services are sometimes misconfigured and expose more information than it should. The application uses by using a third-party service, and because they haven't configured it correctly, it leads to issues. Okay, so here we have the first report, misconfigured S3 bucket leaks. Let me increase the size just a bit more. Yeah, it looks better. So we have a misconfigured AWS S3 bucket leaks sensitive data such as admin, production, beta, localhost, and many more directories. So there are the steps to reproduce, and it's pretty easy. Just access the following URL, and as you can see, it ends up with s3.amazonaws.com, and this confirms that it is the S3 bucket URL. So the bucket name is blah blah blah, which we don't know because it's redacted. And we can see that we are successfully able to see all the contents present on it, which confirm S3 bucket is misconfigured. And to access contents of different directories, we can use following CMD in terminal. So he did added some commands as well here, and it didn't show us those directory names because obviously it's sensitive, but you get the idea. It is exposing much more information than it should, but I think from the single report it must be not making much sense to you because okay, what is exposed here? But I'll show you. Let's have a look at another report. So this one was reported to HackerOne itself. And ACL misconfiguration. ACL is basically access control list. This misconfiguration allowed any authenticated AWS user to write to this bucket. No read access was permitted, and attacker could theoretically post file into the bucket that may at some point be accessed by HackerOne staff member. So basically you have the right permission on the particular URL, and that's why it's kind of a high bug because it shouldn't be able to write on something you're not allowed to do so. But yeah, this one is an example of an AWS S3 bucket where you can write. And there are a few commands for it that you can try on your terminal. Let's have a look at another report that will make more sense to you. So open S3 bucket writable to any AWS user. Basically, there's an S3 bucket in which any user can write. Means you can create your own objects or files or upload your own files containing any information. So here we have the command AWS S3 ls and then the name of the bucket. So what it does, it lists all the objects from this particular bucket. So that's the syntax. And as you can see, you'll get a list like this once you run the command. And it's a pretty huge list. And also there's no authentication, means any user can run this unauthenticated. And there are some attachments as well. So this is how it looks like. You're gonna get an XML response like this. So you have to inspect it, but I would say the best way to do it is to run the commands. This is just one of the commands that I'll be showing you soon. Okay, so here we have the first command. And this command is used to list the objects that are available in a S3 bucket. But if it is secured, you're going to get access denied, like an error occurred while listing objects or access denied in the bracket, something like that. But if it's not vulnerable, you're going to get a list of files and directories. And once you see that, then you can definitely report it. Like any user can access the files of this S3 bucket. Now here's the second command, and what it does, basically you're trying to download a file from the S3 bucket. So if directory listing is enabled, second thing you can check is if you can download a particular file. So in this command, you can see file.txt is the file that you're trying to download. So you have to check that out. And if you can download it, then again, this is another misconfiguration. So now we have the third command here, and this command is used to write anything. So the report we saw earlier, basically you can upload a file or write something to that S3 bucket. That's what you can do with this particular command. So you have to provide your file name and check if you can upload it to that particular S3 bucket. So this is the third thing you can look for. For example, what happens in some cases that you cannot download the files from a particular S3 bucket, but you can upload or like write files. So you can check multiple things when you come across those S3 buckets. Now here we have fourth command, and this one fetches the ACL policy. So I told you ACL is access control list, basically the kind of permissions that are given to users, like who has what permissions, basically a list of permissions assigned. So this is how the response will look like if you find an S3 bucket that has ACL listing enabled. So it will contain ID, display name, and grant, and different kind of permissions like read and write. And otherwise, if it's secure, you're gonna get access denied. Similar to read ACL misconfiguration, you can think of what the next misconfiguration is. I'll give you 5 seconds. Well, it's write ACL misconfiguration, of course. If you can read it, see if you can write permissions to different users, or you can create your own permissions in that particular S3 bucket. So as you can see, this command S3 API put bucket ACL and then the bucket name with the hyphen bucket, and then you can provide grant full control to this particular email address, and then you can provide the email address and the value, and then no send request to see if you can do this unauthenticated. Put bucket ACL modifies the bucket access control list, and now you're going to have full permissions on that S3 bucket. So this is crazy and this is critical. And if this command successfully runs, then you have to definitely report it. Of course, you shouldn't give yourself like all the permissions. If you're testing this out, you can give yourself a read permission and then report it. Moving on to another one we have here is this, and this is the last command. So basically, this one is pretty crazy though, and I don't want to promote this, but I want you to know this. So this is called no S3 versioning. What happens here is if the versioning is disabled, any uploaded object can be permanently deleted. It means you can delete any files on that S3 bucket, which is pretty crazy, because I'm not really suggesting you to do that when you're bug hunting. Really read the responsible disclosure program, and if you really want to test for it, I want you to override or delete those files that is pretty harmless, like logo file or some kind of image file that is less harmless than any other important files on the S3 bucket. So just want to tell you stuff that you should know while looking for these S3 buckets. Okay guys, these are the all commands that I wanted to mention in this video. I hope you like this video. Hope you made notes as well, so because nobody remember all these commands. Anyways, so that's it for today's video. If you have any more suggestions for the new video, any topic you want me to make a video on, you can comment that down in the comments section, and I'm going to read it and I'll check it out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.